Welcome to Solano College Sports Network Studio. I'm your host, Seth Brown, and this is your recap of the second round of matches in the Women's World Cup. We'll begin with Nigeria versus South Korea. Korea would take their first shot in the 9th minute against Nigeria, as the Nigerian players would be unable to clear the ball from the box. In the 29th minute, from midfield, Nigeria would pass forward and the Korean defense would be forced to respond rapidly. A Korean defender would attempt to trap the ball in front of the net. However, instead it would take a heavy deflection into her own goal, scoring Nigeria's first point. Now, during the deflection, a Nigerian player seemed to reach out for the ball, and nearly touched it, causing a handball. However, we don't know why she did this. It makes no sense given the context. But when it was reviewed on VAR, it wasn't called, so it ended up being a non-point, and the goal would stand. Now, in the second half, in the 59th minute, South Korea would score. However, on review by the VAR, which happens for all points that occur, it would be recalled, and because the player would be deemed offsides. Nigeria would put one final ball into the net in the 75th minute, and she would manage to outrun almost the entire Korean defense, which is incredible visually. And despite an excellent attempt in the 84th minute by Korea, the game would end up being a shutout for them. Final score, Nigeria 2, Korea 0. Now, our next game would be Germany versus Spain. Now, Germany and Spain are playing against each other for the first time in the Women's World Cup. And this match would start in a torrential downpour of just constant rain. And Spain would maintain possession of the ball for the majority of the game and would have two almost back-to-back shots on goal, and both would fail to find the net. In the 42nd minute, Germany would put the ball in the box, and while the first shot would be repelled by the keeper, she'd be unable to maintain control, and Germany would get a point on the rebound, as the Spanish defense just failed to get the ball out of the box. Finally, in the 87th minute, Germany would take its last shot on goal, and it would fly into the box, and a Spanish player would attempt a header, only for the keeper to lunge out of nowhere and just catch the ball. Germany would end up winning the game with 1 point. Now, our next game starts with France, our host country, versus Norway. Now, the first half of this game would remain scoreless, a testament to just how effective the defenses of both these teams are. It would be in the second half when the game would really take off. France would score 3 goals in this half. First, in the opening minute of the first half. The second would come when they were on their own defense and would score their own goal off Renard, tying the game. Now, in the 68th minute, France would try and find an opening in the box. And while Norway's defenders would challenge for the ball, it would end up hitting the French player in possession in the knee with her cleat. And that hurts, because the cleat is the spikes on the bottom of a playing shoe, so that they could get better traction on the field. It would only be called because of the review by VAR, and it would result in a direct penalty being taken by France, who would score and take the lead. And that would basically end the game. France would win 2-1. Now, this next one. I've already talked about how just dominant Brazil is. One of the top 3 teams in contention for the World Cup right now. Top 3 teams in the world, period. So this game would be hard for Australia. Brazil's star Marta was back. She didn't appear in the first round because of an injury, and it was nonstop play. There was no chance to breathe, no chance to rest or strategize or anything. Now Brazil, just to show how dominant they are, in group play, they had not lost a match in group play since 2007. So that's 3 World Cups in group play without losing a match. The game would get off to an early start in the 27th minute, where Brazil would score on a penalty. And whether this penalty was justified or not is debatable. Brazil would score again in the 38th minute off of a really well-played header. And Brazil would finally manage to score in the first minute of stoppage time before the end of the first half. Now, the second half, things got really interesting because Brazil's defense just collapsed. In the 58th minute, Australia would score a shot from long range from outside the box, and the goalkeeper would not be able to get even near it. Just from the angle and the distance, she was not ready for it. And the score would be tied 2-2. Then, in the 66th minute, a second long shot was taken by Australia and would be sent in on a header. Australia had now taken the lead. And it was almost an exact replica of their second shot that they had taken. So this was the second long-range shot that they had scored on. Now, the play would go to review. Now, at first, it looked like it was going to be called back because the Australian player who had taken the header into the goal, it looked like she was going to be offsides. But in reality, when VAR slowed down the shot, it had actually come off of a Brazilian player who was trying to stop the ball from going in. And because she hit the ball, the player was not called offsides, and it ended up being a Brazilian own goal. It was incredible. And because of the deflection, the goalie was not in the right position for where she had expected the ball to come from, and Australia would beat Brazil. It boggles the mind for Australia to lose or to beat Brazil. This kind of thing just doesn't happen, but it did. And it completely messed with the dynamic of the group because of it. Australia would now be in first place, and Australia would be down in third for the group. And they would need to win their next game in order to secure a spot in the Group 16 play. So now we move on. So we're going to go ahead and take a short break. And when we come back, we'll start with South Africa versus China.
If you are interested in a career in sports broadcasting, whether you're commentating a live game,
or hosting your own TV show,
or working behind the scenes, then this is the class for you.
For more information, contact Greg Poff, that's me, at solano.edu.
We hope to see you here next semester, and remember,
it's more than just sports,
It's an education.
Welcome back to your recap of the Women's World Cup second round matches. I'm your host, Seth Brown, and we open with South Africa versus China. Now, this match would come down to two things. The Chinese offense and South Africa's goalkeeper. The game would remain scoreless despite the sheer number of shots taken by China's offense. And in the 40th minute, China would finally manage to capitalize on a break in the defense and would score their first goal. China would very nearly score again in the 43rd minute when the ball would bounce into the goal. However, in order for a goal to count, the ball has to go over the line completely, and on review, it did not. So the game would remain 1-0 and would end up being a Chinese victory. Next up, we have Scotland versus Japan. Now, Japan would open the match in the 23rd minute and would score from the top of the box with just a massive strike and just would fly straight into the back of the net. Japan would then draw a penalty in the 36th minute and would score again, making the score 2-0. Japan would make a number of attempts on goal after that, but would be unable to find the net. Finally, near the end, in the 78th minute, Scotland would break the shutout and would finally score their lone point, ending the game Japan 2, Scotland 1. Now we get to Jamaica versus Italy. Now Italy has shown itself in this tournament that they are a powerhouse. They've struggled previously, but they're really making a comeback in this tournament. This match would be a battlefield. Italy would draw a penalty in the 10th minute in the box, resulting in a direct shot. And while the goalkeeper would block the initial attempt, they would block the goal. The keeper would be called for having gone off of the goal line. So a goalkeeper during a penalty kick must stay on the goal line in order to make it fair. I would disagree but I'm biased as a goalkeeper. Italy would again score in the 25th minute off of a corner set piece, and Jamaica would be unable to score in the first half. Now, in the opening minute of the second half, Italy would score again, bring their total to 3 at this point. Then in the 71st and 81st minute, Italy would score twice, bringing the final score 5 in favor of Italy and shutting out Jamaica. Now we get to England versus Argentina. In Argentina's first match, they demonstrated just how powerful their defensive play was when they managed to prevent Japan from scoring. Now, in the 28th minute, England would draw a foul in the box, and Argentina's keeper managed to block the shot. This was the first time this had happened to the English team, period. People just don't block England penalty kicks. This is the first time it's happened since the team's inception, just to show how dominant they are on penalties. After that, no matter how many times England would break into their defense, and the Argentina's keeper, Correa, she deserves all the praise for keeping the score as low as it was, and the only thing that caused her to England would only manage to score in the 61st minute when Argentina's defenses failed to stop an England charge. And England, that would be the only point England would score against Argentina. Now we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to come back to Netherlands versus Cameroon. Stay tuned.
We have everything that an automotive shop would have, or even a dealership would have.
If you guys are interested in automotive at all, go to Solana Community College. Check out the automotive program. It can be a career path for you, just like what I'm doing, or it could be an extreme hobbyist, an enthusiast.
If you really like cars and learning stuff all the time, then this is the best place to go.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Seth Brown, and this is your second round matches of the World Cup recap. Netherlands versus Cameroon. The Netherlands would score first in the 41st minute of play, and Cameroon would reply in the 43rd minute on an incredible run by Freudio. I hope I'm saying that right. And she would head away from the goalkeeper as she managed, because the goalkeeper was coming in fist raised, trying to punch the ball away. And so the goalkeeper nearly hit her with her fist, just to show how close it was. Then in the 48th minute, the Netherlands would gain a penalty outside the box. This would allow them to set up a second point, as Cameroon would be unable to clear the ball from the box. The Netherlands would go on to score one more time during the 84th minute, bringing the final score 3-1. Next, we have Canada versus New Zealand. Early in the first half, in the 18th minute, a shot header war would break out in Canada's box. Canada attempted to head the ball away into the goal, only for it to hit the crossbar and deflect back in. It would bound back into play for another Canadian player to attempt the same, only for a New Zealand player to block with her own header and shoot it away from the net and past the crowd of players. It was incredible. It's fun. It's real fun to watch. It would not be until the 48th minute when Canada would finally put the ball into the net for their first point. Now Canada would only score one other goal in the 80th minute of play, when New Zealand's keeper would be unable to acquire the ball, and it would bounce back into the box, and Canada would score in the open goal. Final score, Canada 2, New Zealand 0. Next, we have Sweden versus Thailand. Now, as you might remember, Thailand got smashed by the United States, setting a record 13-0. These teams just would meet 5 days after that massacre. And Sweden would score their first goal in the 6th minute of play in the first half. Then they would score in the 19th minute when Thailand could not clear the ball from the box. Things would get pretty quiet until the 41st minute, when from the top of the box, Sweden would score off of just a massive boot, which would you could hear the impact of foot meeting ball, and the goalkeeper would be unable to stop the ball from going into the net. Now, nearing the end of the game, in the 80th minute, Sweden would score again, before in the first minute of stoppage time, Thailand would score their first point of the World Cup. Now, Sweden would gain a penalty during the last minute of stoppage time during a review by the VAR. They would, of course, score and end the game 5-1, but at least Thailand managed to score in the World Cup. Now we get to the closers. USA versus Chile. Now, after the massacre that was the Thailand versus USA game, during this match, the USA has switched out 7 of their players for this match, allowing for their star players to rest for the game. It hardly made a difference. The USA would score in the 11th minute with a boot to the top of the from the top of the box to the far corner of the goal. Then, for a brief minute, it seemed like the USA just kind of fell asleep and very nearly allowed a ball to roll into their own goal before the Chilean player who was driving it was called offsides. It was strange. It made no sense for why the Chilean player managed to make it that far. I have no reason why, but it was weird. It's weird for the best team in the world to just suddenly fall asleep like they did. Now USA would score again in the 26th minute off of a corner, and would do so again less than 10 minutes later in the 35th. And in the second half, Chile would devote the entirety of their team to defending their own goal for the rest of the game, so that the point differential for the group wouldn't be as staggering as it is for Thailand. And there'd be some incredible saves by just Thailand. It just applause to the goalkeeper. And then in the 80th minute, the States would draw a foul in the box because that's basically where the entire game took place. Now you'd think that the best team would be able to score off a penalty kick. Yeah, you'd be wrong. Carly Lloyd, who's a veteran for the team, would miss the goal entirely. She didn't go over it. Goalie didn't even block it. It went wide to the left, just completely off target. Final score, US 3, Chile 0. Yeah, that was a weird match. Well, this has been your Women's World Cup recap. I'm Seth Brown, and let's thank Solano College for broadcast studio